Happy Monday. Welcome again to another episode of Emergence of Being with myself and Dr. K. Today's topic is going to be change and tradition, so please stick around. It felt so appropriate to have this as the topic because the seasons right now are in flux and change, but really the whole world is in flux and change. And it is on the tip of everybody's tongue. Everybody's like on the edge of their seats, like wondering what's going to happen. And this is the best time to talk about change and transition if there ever was one.
That's why it came up. Like it's springtime. We've transitioned from the whole little viral friend to now the attention is on something else. And I told Hank I'm Ukrainian, and so I feel for the people that are going on. There's just it's just a lot. People are leaving their homes, kids not having a place to stay. They have to really uproot and change. And the beauty of it, though, is you can destroy everything, that you cannot destroy the spirit. So they're after the cathedrals now and the churches, and I just saw a post today that you can't destroy faith. You just that's nothing you can ever destroy. So it's never in an object. But change and transition is a tricky thing. It's tricky for a lot of people. Man, we hang on. We don't want that. We're comfortable.
Yeah, the only thing that never changes is that everything changes. And so being comfortable with change, no matter what it is so important. When it's something this big in the world, it's so in your face that it doesn't matter how much you try to seclude yourself, like you can't help but realize how much flux the world is in. And even leading up to this with the virus and then with the elections and like all these things, it's like the world has been in this constant like flux state.
Yeah. And I think a lot of things are being uprooted. So don't be shocked. And I'm not shocked if things in many people's lives are being uprooted to say, hey, you got to change something, because I'm feeling it too. Like there's things that are shifting and it's not always super comfortable. So
I will not remember his name. I've been sending you videos recently with the guy with the big beard. What was his name? Do you remember?
See, I sent it to you. Sanguru.
Yeah. And he would say, like, one of the videos I sent you recently, he's like, it doesn't matter like what comes around you, like you cannot change, but what you can change is how you respond to these things. And he really made a distinction too in some of his videos about the difference between responding to something and reacting to something. And he said, anger is a choice, and being sovereign in how you're holding space for what shows up in the world as a choice. And you might not be able to fight it, but if you can be an allowance for how it shows up and then choose how you're going to respond, that's really the defining moment of how it's going to affect you.
Absolutely. Change is imminent, and there's more of it right now. We like to get comfortable and smooth sailing, and sometimes life is smooth sailing, but like they say, what goes up must come down. And so when you're in a really good state, Master Co talks about this too, when things are going really, really, really well, sometimes at some point, something's gonna, not to say go really bad, but it's gonna shift, it's gonna change. You're not always gonna be in this high, high, high state, and you're never gonna be in a low, low, low state. And things are coming up for people. A lot of my clients are undergoing, things that are gonna change, and we hang on. We don't want it to change. We want things to be the way we want them to be, or we want people around us to change so that we have it more comfortable. And it doesn't work that way.
And when things show up that aren't, well, either way, actually, whether things are good or bad, center always. Param, one of my dear friends at Baldwin Wallace, he has this whole workshop, Why Life Sucks, a global voyage to overcome the misery of everyday living. And in this, he talks about the wheel. And that you're at the top, and then you're at the bottom, you're at the top, you're at the bottom. He's like, but the center never moves. The center is always still. And if you can be centered and be grounded, it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad, because sometimes the good things that happen can put us in the state of ecstasy where we're easily blindsided or easily, movable that way too. Like either extreme, being in a place of being centered in the moment where you can respond to both the goods and the bads and the uglies, that is so key. And we've talked many times on many streams about all kinds of different tools to start getting there: mindfulness, meditation, like doing things, exercise, doing things that help you to get to this place of equilibrium.
Yes. And to help you shake things off, I have a few clients that are undergoing, one that's undergoing a divorce that's, and both parties are hanging on. It's like at some point, it's all about finding that center and knowing, because it's all like, it goes back to attachment. We're attached to things being a certain way. We want it our way. And sometimes we're not willing to budge either. That's the other thing.
Well,
willingness to change if we need to change for the better.
And it's like allowance is taking it as it is and then choosing. And where do I really want to go with that? What I was going to say is like, it's not until the moment that you're willing to lose everything that you can begin to have anything.
Exactly. Yes.
And I can speak to like in sometimes relationships and different things. Like if you're not willing for it to change and you're trying to hang on to, like, this happens a lot of time with people in marriages. Like you have kids and like all of a sudden by the time the kids are out of the house, in fact, Prom has a whole deep dive of his work where he talks about this. Like two people come together and they're in love, and then they go through the honeymoon phase and all this, and then they have kids. And by the time the kids leave, the couple are looking at each other and they don't even know who each other are anymore because it became all about the children and they grew apart. But like kids or no kids, relationships are always in change. They're always in flux. But if you try to hold on to that honeymoon stage when you first met, you're doomed to fail because you're not willing to allow it to become something different and more than what it was.
Absolutely. And that comment is right on. There's the saying that goes, if you want to gain anything, be willing to lose everything.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so important. And it feels so counterintuitive because we are creatures, everything has changed, but we want desperately to hang on to the known. But we are in fact the mystery of what has not happened yet, and like run into it like with excitement instead of fear. In fact, I love that acronym for fear. Feeling excited and ready, best one ever. And but because like the ego mind, it's like, I don't know what will happen, I don't want to go there. But like that's really like, how much are we misidentifying fear with excitement because of how we were taught from our parents? Like, oh my gosh, be careful, oh my gosh, be that. But we were excited to explore the world. It's like, let's get into the space of excitement where we're willing to dive into this unknown, and willingness to have change, and willingness for it to not be the same that it's been, because the world hasn't been all that great up until, like now we have all this stuff happening. The world is changing. The old world is dead. The new world just hasn't been born yet.
Yeah.
And we're like going like, we don't know what's going to happen. But like, what if you diving in could be the contribution to the world and molding it into what the world that you would like to see?
Yeah, you are the architect of your life, and the world is changing right now for a reason, and the whole world is changing. Be prepared, guys. There is more change coming.
Yeah. In fact, what I'm hearing specifically is, instead of fighting to keep the old world, what if you could help inspire the new one? And like, that's really the energy. Like if you took one thing away from today's stream, like instead of hanging on to the old, what if you could inspire the new?
Yeah. Tomorrow is not known. It is never known. The future is not known.
Heck, the next minute's not known.
Yeah, we hang on so much. It's like we live our experiences from the past because that's what we know. We live on past experiences. That's what's comfortable. And that's how we project into the future. It's like, well, this looks different now. The future is not known. Nobody knows. Uncertainty is uncertainty, and that is tomorrow and in every minute. I mean, it's like you don't know when a hurricane's going to show up and take it all away. You just don't know. So being grounded in yourself and knowing that you are always safe.
Be the eye of the storm, like the hurricane, like those changes happening around you, but your peace and calm does not have to be affected. And from that space, like inspire that peace and calm into the world. And the gentleman that I can't remember his name again, the guy with the beard,
Sanguru.
I sent you that one where he's talking about, like, because it makes me think about it, because you mentioned projecting into the future. Like some people, then they have the garden, they're focused on the flowers, they're focused on the end result. And he says, don't focus on that. Focus of the process in the moment. Focus on the dirt and the soil and the fertilizer and the watering and like tilling the soil. Like what you focus on, what in this moment could I be and do to express that peace and calm that I choose to be in the world, and then the flowers will come. So we don't even have to see what the new world will look like. All we need to do is be how we feel it to be, and though it will come to in a way that is so beyond the imagination. I'm so excited. My parents were kind of like nervous about everything happening, and I'm like, I'm excited. Never before in history have we been so interconnected with technology that the entire world can look at one single event and make a choice as a species and as humanity. Like, where are we really going with who we would like to be? It's
It's
pretty auspicious.
beautiful.
It
And I
is.
can say, like, the amount of as a side note, the amount of outpouring towards Ukraine is like nothing I've ever seen in my life. Like, nobody knew about Ukraine. It's just this little country somewhere. And we are often as Ukrainian, I was kind of like, I don't even tell people, oh, so you're Russian. I'm like, no, I'm not Russian. And don't ever tell a Ukrainian they're Russian, because it's a sore spot. And now people are really understanding that we are two separate beings. And the amount of love that I'm feeling because of technology and
Yeah.
people seeing, it's like nothing I've seen and felt before. So there's a purpose to this whole thing, as painful as it is for people.
There was like a lady who
Huge
owns
purpose.
a bakery in California. I just heard it on, I think, on NPR or something. And she, for like 3 days, she said everything she brings in, she's going to donate everything to Ukraine for relief efforts. And like she raised like $50,000 or $70,000 in 3 days. Like, I don't even know how you can bake that much bread. You know, I'm sure like there was just extra donations on top of whatever she was selling. And like with Bitcoin and everything, people were just
People are
donating.
giving.
They're choosing to be in the kingdom of we instead of the kingdom of me. Like, it's really
beautiful.
an expression of who we are looking to become as a species. And it's like, yes. And what would it take for us to choose that without a calamity? That would be really nice.
These are examples. The universe is showing people examples of what true love, power, energy, and intention can do and are. And this little tiny country that nobody really knew about is now almost the size of America energetically, because people are just outpouring. It's everywhere. And it's amazing. So this is somebody posted, it's a lesson of patriotism. And I'm like, totally is. It is really showing people the amount of love and energy that can be generated. And a change had to happen.
Yeah.
And it wasn't pretty.
And, just to like backtrack even with COVID, like it showed how interconnected the world was in a way that we never had seen before. And now with that interconnectedness, I think people are feeling this at a new depth that maybe wouldn't have been possible had we not had the virus experience before this.
Totally.
And I think I just see those two experiences as really building on one another. And everybody, if you don't know my acronym for COVID, creating opportunities via intuiting divinity, it was like this wake up for people to sit, just me, myself, and my soul, to know that there's more. And now with that space of knowing this, because like the world started to wake up then. Like the Goddess Elite's been busier than they've ever been. Like this one rock shop I know, they had to hire like dozens of new employees to keep up with orders. There is like this new hunger for people to have like this knowledge of the inner self and that there's more. And like, I think we're seeing that as a whole new expression now because of the new foundation laid because of COVID.
Yeah, we're being shown yet again unity and consciousness and how we're really all together. We're not separate. We're being shown that yet again. And there might be another, in addition, there might be another level. I'm sure there's going to be another level.
There will be another level until we as a species can choose it without having the contrast. Because that's what all this stuff is it is contrast for the soul to know itself. And once we can actually choose to be ourselves without that, then we won't need that anymore. We'll just be able to choose to be like one,
we're getting there.
We are.
Slowly.
It's very exciting.
It's an exciting time to be alive. So all sorts of people are experiencing changes on a personal level. We're experiencing changes on a global scale. The transitions are imminent. And they're pulling people, and it's sometimes not very comfortable because some people are hanging on. They don't want to change. They want to constrict, and I'm going to stay where I'm at. You won't have a choice. You will be gently pulled one way or another until we are all there. How long that's going to take, I don't know. But we are gently. I don't want to even say gently anymore. We're really being pulled.
No, we've been put into this slingshot of possibilities. And off you go. Like you're soaring whether you want to or not. It's just like, are you going to end up soaring on your gifts and have a gentle landing, or are you going to crash and burn and like not want to change still? Like
there's going to be those choice. And I still see them. But I think it's starting to spark seeds in people and be willing to change.
Mm-hmm.
Step, like we talked about, gaining peace.
There's an amazing
the
book, and
center.
maybe we can read this and do a book thing on it or stream on it. It's from Neil Donald Walsh, and it's called When Everything Changes, Change Everything. And the whole book is about the change in the world and changing yourself. And that, instead of being at the effect of change, like instead of waiting and reacting because something shows up, like what if you were riding that wave of creation? Because it's almost like there's this whole new wave of energetic influence. You could be surfing the crest of the wave with a point of view of seeing what's coming and being able to be very proactive in what you're choosing. Or the wave could pass you by, you don't want to change, and now you're riding in the wake and you're treading water trying to get back up on the wave. Either way, the wave has happened. It's like, but would you like to be on that cutting edge, on the edge of the new expansion and the new consciousness, or do you want to be in the wake, kind of like needing to use a lot more effort now to get back up on the crest?
Totally, but you're being told to come along, and it's sometimes things get a little bit worse before they get better, so that's okay. Know that the seeds are planted and you're moving. The process has started, and you're moving forward, and you're going to come out on the other side. Just stay in the center, and in peace and groundedness.
Yeah. And whatever you feel that's heavy within you, this happened to me this last week. I had like this crazy heavy energy, and I was not able to, like, there's certain things that I just have huge resistance to, and like I know I need to get something done and I just don't do it. And like I had some stuff since before Thanksgiving that I was supposed to ship out to someone, and I had it this entire time and still hadn't done it. And I'm like, Anya, what is up with this? And she pinpointed the energy, and I won't say exactly what the energy is. And it's like, oh my gosh, you're right. And all I did is I said something to the effect of, what would it take to take this heaviness and lighten it up and convert it into fuel for my propulsion into possibility, my exact verbiage. And I started to feel this wave, like these little goosebumps, like from the tips of my fingers waving throughout my entire body. And I got this vision of Popeye the Sailor Man eating a can of spinach. And I had this like huge burst of possibility, and I went to the post office. I got that done. I started filing my back taxes because I have like 5 years of some taxes to do, and like I got all this stuff done, and the momentum has continued. And when I shared that with my teacher Zane, he said that what you basically did is something we call in shamanism called a mikwi, where you digest heavy energy, because all energy is source, and heavy energy is just condensed source energy. And so if you could, it's like he called it like high octane fuel. And so if you were to take that heaviness and really say, what would it take for me to use this to plow through and use it to be a contribution to the change and possibility, just that intention alone is going to open the door for you to have a whole different experience. Instead of resisting the change, taking that resistance and applying it towards the new world and possibilities.
Yeah, sometimes, we look at others and they're like, well, they're doing better than me. And take that and use that as a propellant of energy to say, I can do it too, and find the way. Yeah, I think there's a lot of little nooks and crannies of all these things. We're all kind of hanging on to things that we don't want to move forward on, resisting the change. That's
what you resist persists.
It's going to keep nagging you until, in different formats, it's going to keep popping up in a different way until you finally surrender and allow and say, okay,
surrender and allow.
Surrender and allow, and you're going to move, and I'm going to move forth with ease and grace.
And here's the other missing thing that we haven't talked about so much today, but was huge for me in the last year, is you don't have to do it alone. I was always one that I did all my inner work. I mean, I did go to a therapist when I was first getting sober, but for the most part, I was like a one-stop shop. I did everything myself in terms of like my reflections and all the stuff. And I took classes, but I did everything myself. And like this past year, when my life got really, I had my midlife crisis like a whole year early. My life was like really kind of crazy. Guess what? I went to Dr. K, and I went to her office, and like she worked with me and got me to the point where I was able to have some really difficult conversations.
I didn't know that I did that, but okay.
I came to you before my camping trip last year when I was having the back issues. Remember?
That was before your life crisis.
Well, that was like leading into it. Like I hadn't had the life crisis, and I was like, I don't know how to navigate this shit.
I led Hank into his life crisis. That's what I do.
She inspired the darkest night of my soul. No, I already had. Well, to put in context, on February 11th last year, I was looking at some different things that were showing up, and I saw how my life was going to look in another 30 years. And I said, absolutely not. I demand different. I demand more than this. And then my whole life started to shift and change. And I knew that some really difficult conversations needed to occur. And I was getting physical manifestations of like this crippling back pain. And I not just from Dr. K, there were a lot of people in my life that I turned to get help. But that's the thing. Like my main thing is you don't have to do it alone. There's people like Dr. K. There's people like myself. There's light workers, practitioners. Like I would really go with shadow work, right? Like I do shadow work integration. Dr. K does that work. It's really about looking at the shadow, the parts of us that were in the deepest judgment, because those are the things that we resist. We're judging ourselves for where we were choosing to be the energies that we're now opposing in the world. And it's like you got to look at those things, love that about yourself, and now you can have a different experience if you don't try to sweep it under the rug, which is what I was doing for years.
So be aware of the pains that are happening because they're usually trying to move you through something. This is what will happen is when you're really like the body's like, okay, a little twitch, then it's a pain, then it's something, it's like telling you to move through something. A condition shows up to help you move through something. And we resist so much going through that it's crazy. But once you go through and you look back and you're like, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. No. And boy, did I muster up a lot of resistance to change this when actually it's not so bad. I'm okay. I got to the other side and I'm all right.
Yeah. You know, it takes way more energy to be in resistance than it does to let go.
Yes.
And what Spirit gave me this analogy the other day when I was doing my tarot readings, it was like you have the bow and arrow, like the bow and arrow of your choice of change. And you pull back and you have all that energy. And then you're like, I'm not letting go.
Yeah.
Because I have too many judgments. What if I accidentally shoot somebody in the butt? What if I missed the target? What if it doesn't happen the way I think? And so you have all this like drive to change, and then you just don't make the choice to actually launch that into the ethers as a possibility. But it takes, how much energy does it take to hold that bow and arrow? If you were to let it go, like then you leave it to the universe, and that arrow takes flight, and you just trust and know that, hey, it's gonna go exactly as it should, as it ought to.
I see it every time, clients come to me for the functional medicine and like, oh, I read my hormones test and run my blood work. I'm like, okay, yeah, great. But when we start talking, my niche really is to see where the change needs to happen, because there's an emotional connection to the physical manifestation of what you're having. And when you change that, you heal so much faster. And I still have clients that are like, they're moving slow through this. I'm like, this is what you need to change right here. You need to heal this relationship. You need to have this one conversation. And there will be so much release that, and everybody moves at their own pace. Everybody moves at their own pace. I had a recent client that when we released something, her menopausal symptoms released by 60 to 70%, her hot flashes in 2 sessions, which she was receptive. Some people are not quite receptive. We have a little more work to do, and sure, we'll run hormones and we'll look at that. But there's just that little, those 2 sessions alone had that kind of an effect. I was like, that's really cool. Yeah. So it takes an enormous amount of energy to keep that resistance of what's being bottled up inside. Right. And that will create physical congestion. It will create pain. It will create fatigue. It will create all sorts of conditions to help you move forward.
Yeah. So like my final thought, because I know we want to wrap it up around the 20-minute mark, is just I would inspire all of you to be the catalyst for change in the world and advocating for the world that you would like to live in and the person that you would like to be. And if you can stand in sovereignty there, everything else will shake out. And just being an allowance of don't fight anything that shows up, be an allowance of it. But who do you choose to be in creationship to that? And that's like really like the key takeaway for me.
Yep. What are you going to let go of? How are you going to show up? You are the architect of your life. You can create it all.
Yeah, you're the common denominator in everything that has ever happened to you. So if you're going to change the world, guess how that needs to happen? It changes with this.
Yeah. Your perception. It's all about your perception. So be willing and open and surrender, and look at the places where in your heart of hearts, just take a moment today to just what really needs to change. Because you've just been sweeping it under the rug. So what needs to change? Where can you help on your own individual scale, on a global scale? Because when you do things on a global scale, you're helping everybody. You're helping the whole consciousness of everybody around you. Things will manifest for you, and be willing to let go of whatever it is you need to let go of so that you can gain so much more.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, what a wonderful conversation. We hope you enjoyed. We will catch you next Monday or next podcast day in case we ever change our minds on what day it is. Like, who knows? Like, so make sure you like and subscribe. So like if we ever change it up, you're not missing when we go live and have these amazing conversations. And if you have any topics you like, please let us know in the comments. We'd be happy to create content around what is going on in your world.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.